Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Neon, not here with Geeky Sparkles in this video, but we're going to talk about the bottom falling out of digital journalism. Vice is filing for Chapter 11. Now, it was rumored that they were going to file for Chapter 11 and what that would look like, but it turns out that they're selling for a lot less money than what they were hoping for. In fact, they're basically calling it a wash at this point. Remember how the CW, how it got sold and it basically wound up being like for $0? That's kind of what's going on with Vice here. A bunch of their debtors are, I guess, taking control of it. It's only selling for $200 and some million, which is absolutely nothing compared to what they thought the valuation was. Now, here's the thing. Just like BuzzFeed going public and failing miserably, and it's sort of scaring people off from digital media, digital journalism, I think Vice filing for Chapter 11 and selling for this cheap is going to be the first domino that gets knocked over, because there are a lot of companies sitting on these websites thinking someday they're going to be worth, billions of dollars and they can sell them off, and make a huge profit. And that was always the end game. It was always take the venture capital, pump up your numbers, grow this site, sell the site, move on to something else. Unfortunately, Vice couldn't get out fast enough. BuzzFeed couldn't get out fast enough. Jonah Peretti, I think, was too attached to it. Lots of other websites sold themselves off for a lot more. In fact, I think Reese Witherspoon has a website. Was it Hello Sunshine? Something like that. She sold for like $900 million. Now, she has a production company too, obviously, but like she knew when to get out. And Vice did not know when to get out. And this is Vice, the same Vice that did the hit piece on the entire manga industry, trying to claim that all manga was being done by a bunch of kitty diddlers, and lollies and all of that jazz. And they really did a hack job on that video, tried to portray the entire industry as being pervy. And there are parts of it that are pervy, admittedly, but it was very disingenuous. And then at the end of the video, they were begging for money, and it looks like they ain't getting enough money. So we're going to talk about this and kind of what I think the fallout of all this is going to be. I have thoughts. I think we are looking at a massive, massive paradigm shift in the media between, Twitter, what's going on over there, and that's a whole nother issue with the CEO and all that, and what's going on with YouTube, and again, so many of these websites folding, especially video game websites. I mean, look at Giant Bomb and GameSpot and that cluster. Cluster being a pretty appropriate word, I think. That cluster of sites that sold for $600 million to CBS a couple of years ago, and then they sold them off for $50 million recently. And lots of game journos are losing their jobs. Vice shut down Waypoint. Again, that was a video game news organization that proudly said they were anti-capitalist, anti-capitalism. And it looks like you got your wish. They have no money. No money. Vice is anti-capitalist. So we're going to talk about all this before we get into it any further. Please subscribe if you haven't done so already. We do talk a lot about pop culture. We talk about technology. We talk about internet stupidity. I talk a lot about digital media. I like to talk about it when Geeky's not here. It bores her to death, but I think it's really fascinating because I actually did work in the media. I actually started out as a journalist, and then I became a web developer. And then I wound up working in digital marketing for a while. So this is my jam, dude. And I did comics on the side the whole time. I had to have a day job, surprisingly. Most comic book artists do have to have day jobs. At least I didn't have to do Uber. I didn't want to lower myself to driving Uber like, the WGA strikers are afraid to do. They don't want to be Uber drivers. Good God. So this is coming from Motherboard, which is Vice. So Vice is writing its own obituary. And then we're going to go out and see some of the other reactions here. Vice Media LLC files for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. The process is likely to result in the sale of Vice, which will continue to operate during the proceedings. Vice filed for Chapter 11 Monday, a process that is likely to result in the sale of the company to Fortress Investment Group and Soros, dun dun dun, fund management for $225 million. That is fucking pathetic. That is pathetic. That is a like not even a drop in the bucket compared to the massive amounts of money that this company burned through over the last decade. $225 million. I've heard it's actually closer to zero. It's going to be kind of a wash. The news comes a few weeks after the company shuttered Vice World News and canceled Vice News Tonight, its flagship news television program, resulting in more than 100 layoffs across the newsroom. The company will continue to operate normally during Chapter 11, going out of business sale. Chapter 11 filing documents were viewed by Motherboard, and they show that Vice Media LLC and the 31 associated LLCs owe Fortress $474.6 million. Vice Media Group today announced that it has agreed to the terms of an asset purchase agreement with a consortium of its lenders. So they came to repossess the television is what happened, and the kids are watching. Mommy, why can't we watch Saturday morning cartoons? Because Mommy didn't pay the fucking bill, Jimmy. That's why. Mommy didn't pay the bill. The filing is the latest in a series of blows to the company, which once took it funding at a $5.7 billion valuation. In 2019, the company raised $250 million in debt from investors, including Fortress and George Soros' Soros Fund Management. Dun, dun, dun. The Chapter 11 filing states that Vice's management has determined that it is advisable and in the best interest of the Vice Group companies to enter into a stalking horse agreement for the sale of substantially all assets and related auction procedures. Oh my God, this is like getting your house repoed. A stalking horse agreement is when a potential buyer is in place in advance of a bankruptcy filing. This accelerated court-supervised sale process will strengthen the company. Oh, my sweet summer child. Will strengthen the company and position Vice for long-term growth. Yeah, bullshit. Therefore, safeguarding the kind of authentic journalism and content creation that makes Vice such a trusted brand for young people, for the youths, and such a valued partner to brands, agencies, and platforms. There is no future for Vice. It is over. There is no future for BuzzFeed. It is over. All of these websites have imploded. They're all trying to put a nice spin on it because they want to get what they can get, right? They want to get while the getting's good, but it's over, man. This is like Mike. That was another Mike, M-I-C. That was another one of these websites, and it was worth like hundreds of millions of dollars or $1 billion or something. And it wound up selling for $5 million. This is like Tumblr, freaking Tumblr, $1 billion to Yahoo, to Verizon, sold for $3 million. This company is not even worth $200 million at this point. It is, I guarantee you, massively in debt. And all these journos going on about the future of digital journalism, all of these journos don't seem to realize that, like, where did you think the money came from? Where did you think the money came from to pay your $150,000, $200,000 salaries? Because I've seen the salaries. I don't know if it's Vice in particular, but a lot of these journos working at BuzzFeed and these media outlets, I'm like, there is no way in hell this company is making enough to pay these people what they're paying them. And the reality was they never were. They just kept dipping into venture capital. The game was you keep the company afloat. Have you ever seen The Money Pit, the movie The Money Pit? With Shelley Long, The Money Pit? I think was it Tom Hanks and Shelley Long? Yeah. So the trick was to make the website, make the media company look attractive. So some sucker like Disney, which they bit, would come along and give you like billions of dollars. That's what the game was. And then when it was obvious that they weren't going to take the bait anymore, the panic set in. Now it's like a fire sale because these companies are not worth it. They're not worth it. They were never worth this kind of money. Now, I think there's a future for digital journalism, but on a much, much, much smaller level. A much smaller level. We're talking individuals or small groups, websites, like Substack or something like that. People doing subscribers, doing a subscription service or something like that. But this was never sustainable. It's insane that they last this long. And all these other websites are going to collapse too. Vice has taken on a series of high-profile investments at large valuations over the years. These investments allowed the company to expand, but ultimately created a list of companies expecting a return on their investment. These investments allowed the company to expand, but ultimately create a list of companies expecting a return on their investment. This included private equity firm TPG. They gave the company $450 million in 2017 to expand the Vice TV offerings, and I guess they've shut most of that down. The company had also taken high-profile investments from A&E Networks, Disney, and Fox. Disney lost $400 million on Vice. These investments led to a highly complex corporate structure and series of debts that Frank Pometti of the consultancy firm Alex Partners, who has been appointed chief restructuring officer, said ultimately resulted in the company's bankruptcy. In a filing with the court, Pometti wrote, Vice relied on external funding, raising both debt and equity capital to fuel its rapid growth and fund expenses in certain parts of the businesses. They kept maxing out their credit cards to pay salaries, to pay expenses, because they weren't generating enough revenue. What they thought they could do, again, this is all a game, what they thought they could do is make it look good for a potential sucker, a mark, to come along and buy this company out, even if it was like $1 billion, only $1 billion, to get them off the hook. And it didn't happen. And none of these companies are going to sell. Like, I don't even know, like, if IGN would be put up for sale tomorrow, would anybody bite? And would they bite, you know, to the tune of the billions of dollars or whatever they think the company is actually worth? I don't know. I honestly don't know at this point. When you've got GameSpot and Giant Bomb, that whole cluster of, and GameFAQs, I think was in there too, that whole cluster of websites sold for less than Mr. Beast makes in a year, right? That entire, like, 20 plus years of internet history can be had for less than one YouTuber makes in a year. That's pretty dire when you think about it. Like, it's not good. The investments left Vice highly leveraged and unable to pay its debt. Yes, Vice just kept maxing out its credit cards. This created a cascading situation where Vice had to continually push back loan repayments or get more funding to continue operations. So they were probably maxing out credit cards to pay off other credit cards. And they couldn't keep it up. They couldn't keep it up. So yeah, they said, it just goes on and on. I mean, they're trying to go into detail here, but they're basically like, all of these companies are shuttering. This is why, and I think this actually kind of dovetails with the situation with the WGA writers' strike, because BuzzFeed at least made the comment that they were going to rely more on AI to do the grunt work to try to survive because they cannot pay these people. And a lot of these writers at these different publications are salaried. You know, they're union, a lot of them. And I think Gizmodo is probably going to be on the chopping block here pretty soon. Geo Media. I could see them going under. They've been trying very hard to pivot back to profit, but they made some very unpopular decisions. They had that issue with the union last year, and they keep kind of folding websites into other websites. The reason I think so many pop culture journalists are freaking out is they know their websites are probably in a very tenuous situation like Vice. The reason they attack YouTubers is that YouTubers and, you know, podcasters and other, you know, individual media personalities, individual citizen journalists, right? I don't know if that's what we are, but, you know, whatever. Talking heads. We can weather the storm better than a company like this, but a lot of these people can't do it themselves. We saw this with G4 TV. The thing that made the most sense with G4 TV would have been to go find people that were already successful on Twitch or YouTube or someplace else and kind of build up a network and be like, okay, we'll create a website or a hub, or we'll take their content and we'll televise their content, you know, but we'll create kind of a network here and we'll build it organically. Instead, they went all in, dumped millions of dollars into this ridiculous HQ only to go out of business a year later. The gig is up, right? They cannot lie anymore. These companies are not sustainable. They've never had the money to make it on their own. Again, they're 30-somethings living at home, maxing out mom and dad's credit cards and trying to look the part. Look at us. We're a successful media company. Don't look behind the curtain, though, like Geeky likes to say, because we've got a massive amount of debt. We're not sustainable. We've been telling you this for years. I'm looking at the numbers on this thing and I'm just like, my God, they're not making the money they need to make to keep this up. But if they can cash out, good on them, but it's over, man. All of this is going to end. We're going to have a lot of unemployed gaming journos, especially pop culture journalists, especially, and they're going to come after YouTubers like us. And they're probably going to come after YouTubers like us a lot harder because we're still going to be here and they can't do it themselves, or they would have already. So I'm going to wrap this one up. Please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants. We'll talk later. Pre-order the Clownfish TV comic book right now on Indiegogo. Go to clownfishtvcomic.com. That's clownfishtvcomic.com. This is a fun collection of all new comic strips based on dumb stuff we've said on the show. Again, that's clownfishtvcomic.com. You're gonna have to hurry. We're only taking pre-orders for a limited time. Now we're gonna get back into the show. Help support the channel. Go to thereef.support and get early access to podcasts, videos, and other content. That's thereef.support.